Yo, yo, yo. What's up, golf addicts? Joe Idoni at Tour Picks here on behalf of the at Tour Junkies to provide to you and your hearts a little bit of a preview here for LIV Golf event this weekend. 1 week before the second major of the year, the PGA Championship. This week, the LIV Tour heads to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Cedar Ridge Country Club. So I'm pretty excited that they're able to make themselves back mainland here, in which case we're able to catch a little bit more of the coverage, obviously, that won't be on in the middle of the night. And always exciting. Like I said this a few weeks ago, that I think their biggest weeks in terms of viewership, in terms of attention, in terms of notoriety throughout the year will be these weeks before the majors, as casual bettors and gamblers and just viewers of professional golf will want to catch a glimpse and a little bit of an insight into the form of these players as they come into major championships. There was quite an unknown heading into the Masters on how prepared were these players really going to be. And I think they answered a lot of those questions with obviously three within the top four: Brooks, Patrick Reed, and Phil Mickelson, all finishing in fourth place or better. Brooks was in it all the way into the back nine of Sunday before ultimately losing to John Rahm. But look, I think that there was some skepticism, and it was warranted the first time around at the Masters. And part of me feels like the pendulum could have swung a little bit in the other direction coming this time in the PGA, and there may be a little bit of a sense that these players do get an added bump now this week because of how well that people saw them perform last time, particularly in DFS formats. I don't think it's going to affect the outright betting market too much, but anytime that you factor in public perception in places, ultimately with ownership in DFS, it's going to affect how those contests sort of play out. And I think that so many players that finished in the top contest before were able to stack some of these LIV guys who played successfully. So I do wonder, and we'll have to continue to monitor that coming into next week, which I'm sure you will do throughout the week. I mean, the Nut Hut has you completely covered in the Tour Junkies Discord. If you are not a member in there, please make sure to go and sign up there. Subscribe to this channel as well. You can follow me on Twitter at TourPicks. I have my Preferred Lines show that I host every single week, and it goes live on Monday nights at 8:30. Would appreciate you to check that out as well. Thank you all for your support as always. But like I mentioned, the Nut Hut, they've had a ton of unique insight there. DB has people on site this week that are friends of him, that are members over at TPC Craig Ranch. So a ton of good stuff on the PGA Tour side. I'm trying to sort of handle some of the LIV content for them, and we'll come and merge together next week for the PGA, which we're very excited for. Excuse me in advance, as I may need to take a few more water breaks than normal. I'm a little bit under the weather this week. Just got back from vacation. You know how it is. Long flights, lack of sleep catches up to you quickly. All right, so actually, you know what? Before we get started, I did want to kind of take a peek at some of the PGA Championship odds for next week, and as it pertains to some of the LIV guys. So I'm going to add that to the screen now. As you can see here, like Brooks is no longer going to be your 80-1, 100-1 Brooks. The tickets that I had coming into the Masters, he's now 20-1. I've seen 22s at spots. Particularly the Circa, which I have some interest in. I don't think that number gets any better than 22. He's playing fantastic. We'll get into this later. I think he makes a great course fit at Tulsa as well. If he finishes inside the top 5 at Tulsa, I can see the best number available next week right around like 18-1. 20 would be the max that I think you get. Next on the board in terms of LIV players, you have to go all the way down to Cameron Smith. And Cameron Smith and DJ are very interesting case studies. You can see the 33 on Cam Smith. I've seen 38s out there as Circa as well. Dustin Johnson is 40. These are two of the three most dominant players on the LIV Golf Tour, I think, without a doubt. It's Cam, it's DJ, it's Brooks. I don't think these two are that far off from Brooks. DJ has not had everything this year, and the finishes have been disappointing, albeit I think that he sets up amazingly for Oak Hill. I think that 6 months ago, people would have said he was one of the favorites heading into the event, and you're now starting to see a 4 next to his name for a major championship If we can see some positive signs built at Cedar Ridge, which is a demanding golf course, and we'll get into it a little bit more. I don't. It's not going to be as demanding in terms of a setup that we're going to see from the PGA of America next week at Oak Hill. But I think it's a nice test for them. It's certainly a better test to prep for a major, in my opinion, than TPC Craig Ranch. The third easiest course on the entire PGA Tour is going to be heading into a difficult par 70, long, boisterous. Like it is going to be a very, very tough setup next week. I think this presents a little bit of a better challenge in terms of preparation. um, Cameron Smith is the one that I really have my eye on. I'm not going to lie, I took a piece of a 38 earlier today. If I see that maintain or get better into next week, I will add to it. I think that he made some comments that scared some people off at the Masters, in which basically he told the truth, right? In that he very much enjoyed his offseason. He took time to reap the rewards of winning an Open Championship, cashing in on the biggest payday of his entire career. And as well, he should have. I think many of these players did. It was just an honesty around Cameron Smith. He also hinted at some injury concerns. I think those are beyond him at this point. I think that he's healthy. I've seen positive signs in what I've seen from some of the action, both at Adelaide and at Singapore. So I think that the 38-1, I mean, this guy was the number fourth ranked player in the world a few months ago. I believe he's still in the top six, and hasn't fallen out of that spot yet. He is a great player. Now, is Oak Hill a long, difficult, demanding test off the tee great for Cameron Smith? Most would argue no. I would argue that he's so good he can win anywhere. The most demanding in terms of off the tee tests, one of the most difficult that we see all year, and it's not about the length, it's just about the accuracy that you need to have, is TPC Sawgrass. He's won that event. He's also won events on shorter courses. He's won events at obviously St. Andrews. He's won the Sony Open. He's won Tournament of Champions, which is extremely wide and long off the tee, and the yardages are insane. And then you go to a place like Sony where it's tight. Like, my point being, Cameron Smith is a good enough player to win on just about any golf course that you drop him into in the world, because he has still, I believe, the best putter from 5 to 15 feet in the world, and he's got some of the best hands and short game in the world. That gets you by just about anywhere. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this week. So Cedar Ridge, it is a 1969 Joe Finger design. It was actually redone recently in 2016 by a man by the name of Trip Davis, who is an Oklahoma native, who tried to sort of modernize the course a bit. It is an 18-hole par 71 course. The LIV Tour is going to play this thing out as a par 70 this week, right around 7,200 yards. So what I believe they're going to do, and let me see if I can pull this back up here, is turn this initial opening hole right here, number one. It is a straightaway par 5, kind of an easy opening hole for the amateur player and the club members to sort of welcome you in, pat you on the back, because this place gets very difficult very fast. It's 5:30 from the tips. I think they probably play this thing out around where those white tee markers are at 499 and turn this hole, in my opinion, into the par 4. They have not released a scorecard yet, so this is yet to be determined. But there's another par 5 on the front 9, which is, give me just a second, the 5th hole here. I think they leave this one just because of the dog leg. It brings some water into play as well. It's 551. It's further back. I think they leave this as a par 5, and they're going to want one on the back, in which case I think this 14th hole, which is also a very unique hole. And they mention here on the hole description on Cedar Ridge's website that it typically plays into a strong south wind. I think they leave that, so they have one par 5 that way on each side of the course, which makes the most sense to me, honestly. The two sort of most insane holes are This 17, which is a par 4 or 5, they're going to play it as a par 4. It can go all the way back to like 497 from the back tees, and then 18 can go all the way back to like 480. So they are going to be very difficult holes, which of course on Live Tour you have to pay attention to where your players start and where your players finish because of the shotgun start nature. They're all starting on different holes. You don't want to start on 17, 18. You can go two over and then walk into that first hole, which is a par 5 turned into a par 4. And quickly things can get out of hand and momentum can go the opposite direction that you want. This I thought was a good takeaway. I mean, every review that I've read on this thing talks about the difficulty off the tee and how this place challenges you and sort of plays games with you on your approach shot, and the green complexes are extremely undulating. From everything that I read, they have, the course is most well known for this creek that sort of meanders throughout the golf course. There are several holes with kind of a rock embankment that will protect the green, which will have water in play. As you see here, the finishes test two of the longest par 4s you'll ever see back to back, 497 and 495 respectively. There's a fair amount of movement, but not enough to stop one from completely like walking the course, which it says here. There's much that will blow you away about Cedar Ridge, but there's little to complain about either. It's a solid course from start to finish to enjoy. The signature hole is the third hole here, which is a 379-yard par 4. As you can see, this creek that kind of moves throughout multiple holes and will tend to catch balls. This is kind of that rock embankment that I was telling you about that you'll see protect sort of many of the greens in terms of a short approach. I believe, in my opinion, this is a great feature for amateur golf. I don't think this is a test for professional golf. These players will be able to clear this pretty easily. And you can see, unless you catch one of these banks up here near pin high, and how closely they will mow these sort of runoff areas, I think the majority of them, here's another look at the second hole, which is a par 3, are pretty much out of play for these guys at the professional level. Um, let's see what else I got. So, just moving on to sort of some year-to-date stats before I. One thing to note is there are a lot of players who played college golf at Oklahoma in the field this week. There are going to be 5 players returning. 5 players in LIV Golf played at Oklahoma State. So you have, let me see if I can rattle them off without looking them up. You have Peter Uihlein, you have Charles Howell, you have Taylor Gooch, you have Eugenio Chikara, and you have Matthew Wolff. Those are 5 studs, all Oklahoma State Cowboys. You also have an Oklahoma Sooner in Abraham Answer. A lot of these guys talked about the importance of heading back to Oklahoma at the PGA Championship, which was held in Tulsa last year at Southern Hills. So it's unique. Oklahoma is unique in that, for a couple of reasons. They don't really have professional sports. So they have the Thunder. But for the most part, we saw this a lot at the PGA. It is a population that is hungry for professional sport at the highest level. Not totally dissimilar from what we saw in Australia in sort of an landscape of a United States professional sports fan. Not to that degree, but certainly warranted. These people are hungry for golf, and I think they're excited to see it. So these are the year-to-date sort of player standings. Through 5 events, Taylor Gooch has 92 points. He's earned nearly $9 million in prize money in 5 events. That's the difference here. Those, and there's been a lot of talk this week, I can't not mention it, about Taylor Gooch not playing in the U.S. Open. Not that you asked for it, but here's my take on it. He should try to qualify. And I don't think that that's a shot at him. I think that them moving the criteria was probably the wrong thing to do, but it's the reality. And he's playing well enough right now that I think that if it was important to him, he should try to qualify. There was an understanding, and there was an extra pay bump that these guys got when they signed with the LIV Tour because of the fact that they open themselves up to this possibility of not playing in major championships. I talked a little bit with Benji, who is Abe's caddy, earlier in the year, and there wasn't much concern about it, to be honest. They knew this all along could potentially be a reality for players like Abraham Answer, who weren't auto qualified off previous major finishes, for players like Joaquin Neiman, for players like Taylor Gooch. It was built into the price and what they were paid to come over to this tour. So this was always in the cards as a realistic possibility. And the beauty of the US Open is I can qualify for it. If I play well enough, I can be in the US Open. So can Taylor Gooch. And he has a much better chance than me, believe it or not, playing this well. I believe he would probably have a very good shot at doing so. I don't know that maybe he's concerned about potential criticism if that doesn't work out for him. I don't know the reasoning why, if it's just stubbornness or what it is that he doesn't want to qualify, but I think he should go for it. And it's a shame to see that he's not going to give it a shot. But I think any criticism, look, the U.S. Open is the U.S. Open. Are we gonna bat an eye because Taylor Gooch isn't there with the thing tees off? I certainly won't. I doubt that anyone will have an impact on the coverage or how you think the event will transpire in any degree. That's my take on it. Gooch is up there. Another look at the Cowboys, man. Peter Uihlein is right there. Charles Howell right there. The Oklahoma State Cowboys have the three top money earners. I'm sorry, three top points earners thus far on the LIV Tour. Brooks is one of the money leaders because he has the first, obviously, and a third, which is better than Uihlein's second, seventh, and eighth. Moving on to a couple of other things that I thought were interesting. So, driving distance, because this course is so demanding off the tee and is 7,200 yards as a par 70, they're also expecting a lot of wind. And there's been some coverage and people looking into this in Texas, where the PGA Tour stop is this week. And this time of year in Texas and Oklahoma, the winds can kick up at any moment. If it's affecting Texas players pretty well, I would imagine that Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Oklahoma could potentially get windy. I would continue to monitor this. I think that the more windy it gets, it can oftentimes accentuate the distance of the course because players are a little bit uncertain off the tee. Peter Uihlein is averaging 326 off the tee, which is long. Like, that'd be up there and within the top players on the PGA Tour. DJ's averaging 320 still off the tee, which is insane. I was surprised to see Andy Ogletree has only played 3 rounds, so he was just a fill in that one tournament. Mito Pereira. I don't know how accurate these numbers are and if they're using ShotLink data or how they're tracking these exactly. But Mito Pereira averaging 312 off the tee, those are like he's hitting it as long as Scotty Scheffler. I That's insane to me. I would love to know how dialed in these numbers are, but I definitely think that's worth considering. I mean, he's hitting it 2 yards on average further than Bryson DeChambeau, which is pretty impressive for Mito, given where he stood in driving distance on the PGA Tour before he made his exit. Birdies. Once again, familiar name right up there. Peter Uihlein has made 80 birdies this season. That is 4 more than the next best player, Brooks Koepka. Gooch has 73. Kokrak has a lot of birdies as well. And Cameron Smith, there's the name I spoke about, 71. A little the fall of Cam Smith is being a little bit exaggerated at this point. Putting average, Uihlein, Cam Smith, there they are, 1.52, 1.53 per hole. They've hit, 411 and 413 putts so far, respectively. Scrambling is, these are some of the player interviews that I looked at as well. This is what Taylor Gooch sort of said about coming back to Oklahoma. Let me pull this up. Such love for Oklahoma. It's my people. I feel like I'm just excited to actually see it up close and in person. It's going to be such an exciting week. I keep hearing about the support that has been really good for ticket sales in the local community. We love our sports in Oklahoma, and it's going to be fun to see the turnout. What do you know about Cedar Ridge? And I thought that this was interesting. So Matt Wolff spoke, and Charles House spoke that they've never played it. I haven't played it since high school, actually, Taylor Gooch said. I played the USAM back in 2009 there, so it's been nearly 15 years. I think I was 16 or 17 when I first played it. I remember at the time thinking it was a big boy course. I know it's still revered as one of the best courses in Oklahoma. I'm just hopeful that we're going to have some good weather this time of year in Oklahoma. It can get a little windy. So, us golfers know when it gets windy, it gets tough. Hoping we can get a little Oklahoma wind that week. Some good stuff there from Gooch. Okay. 20 minutes into the show, let's turn to the odds board. Let's try do our best to make some bets. Here we are. Brooks Koepka is your favorite to win LIV Golf Tulsa, 10-1 on the odds board. This is Bet Online. There's a number of books out there with similar numbers as well. Taylor Gooch, 11-1, second favorite in the field all the way is Gooch up to this week. Cam Smith, 12-1, Mito, 14, DJ, 16, Reed, 16, Joaquin Neiman, 16-1. This is kind of where they've positioned action to come in on Dustin Johnson, 16-1. I bought in Adelaide at 14. I bought in at Singapore at 16. I think I'm going to buy in again at 16-1. I'm going to give it one more shot on DJ here. It's got to be close. This is a par 70. It is a big boy course, as Taylor Gooch described. This is where he should flourish. He is a much better player than Mito Pereira. He's a much better player than Taylor Gooch. He should probably be 10-1, and Brooks should probably be, closer to 8-1, in all honesty, with the way he's been playing. Those are my two favorites for this event on this golf course. I'm going to take DJ 16-1 and continue to sort of add more money into this pot. Look, he won twice last year. He won the team championship as well. I think he's the best player on the tour. Here's my shot, man. I'm going for it once again, and we'll see if he can catch a little bit of form. I know that he's been working hard on some kinks with the driver. He seemed to figure some of that out, particularly the final round 3 at Adelaide, where he hit almost every fairway and was banging it out there 325 consistently on a difficult driving course. I think this should be a spot, in my mind, in theory, that should fit his eye very well. Here's the interesting one. Peter Uihlein's 22-1. Now, on the face value, that seems like a terrible bet. Although when you look at the numbers that I read off, it's not so much. Here's his finishes. 2nd, 7th finish. He finished also 11th in Singapore. So he's doing really well. He's finishing consistently well. He is the longest guy off the tee. He has made the most birdies on the LIV Tour. He is the best putter so far this season on the LIV Tour. Let's take 22-1 and this is strictly a play on numbers. And I think that it's worthy at this particular golf course at this time. There's going to be a lot of talk about guys coming back to Oklahoma this week. I think that he will be the most overlooked of the bunch, who's also playing the best. DJ 16-1, Uihlein 22-1. Those are my two bets sort of at the top of the board. You have Abraham Ancer there at 28-1, which is a favorable number, which is the best we've seen on him. Paul Casey, I really liked in Singapore. He played terrible. He was such a disappointment to me. These English players are really playing bad. Westwood, Poulter, Casey, they can't get it going, and I don't know what exactly it is, but they have not found anything or really even contention for the most part in a long time. So I don't know what it is. It was good to see Sergio play well in Singapore. That was good for him. Lahiri is up there at 25-1. Varner, 28. Kokrak, I mentioned, who makes a ton of birdies at 28. Here's Matt Wolff. The numbers have been disappointing for Matt Wolff. The finishes have been disappointing. I've seen a lot of people betting him the last couple of events at 33-1-ish, 28. I'm not quite there. It's sickening for me to say this, but I'd much, much rather pay a less number on Peter Uihlein. I feel like the results have been much more consistent. This sort of range gets weird with Liv. The Tringale, Ortiz, Steele, Louis. Phil is 35-1, which is the best number that you're probably going to find on the market right now on Phil. Here's the last bet on the board for me, and it's a number, and it's a player that I keep going back to, and it's Thomas Peters. 45-1, I think, is a worthy number. He has not shown his best stuff thus far. It's interesting, and I don't exactly know, can't exactly pinpoint why, because he had been pretty close to good form before this on the European tour. He had seen a bit of a resurgence in his game. There were high expectations that he would come over and play well in the major championships this year. 45-1, I think, is a golf course that is really going to suit his strengths. Those are my third and final bet this week. The other one I kind of wanted to speak about is Bryson. This is a crazy number on him, 60-1. This is where we've gotten, and there have been positive signs. Let's see where he's at. Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, 16th is his best finish. He's won top 20 this year. This is why I couldn't do it. I want to do it. Texas native. He should be very familiar here on a demanding course off the tee, which distance should certainly be an accentuated asset at a course like Cedar Ridge. I just haven't seen enough, and frankly, they Live overpaid for him, and he's been a huge letdown thus far. I think we're going to see a resurgence. I mean, we see it with all the players. We've seen it with Phil. We've seen Brooks in the middle right now of a big resurgence. Bryson will come back. I just don't think we're quite ready yet. I think Thomas Peters is closer. There's some names here: 100-1, Charles Schwartzel, Matt Jones. Poulter's terrible. Horsfield's been bad. Westfield's been bad. I don't see any of these guys winning at a difficult golf course like this, especially if what I think Liv should do to best prepare themselves for next week is take advantage and leverage the situation a little bit of preparing the players for a major championship, in which cases the scoring is going to be very difficult. They have a chance this week to leverage some advantage, in my opinion, because the PGA Tour players are either taking a week off or they're playing a course that's going to resemble nothing like Oak Hill. This could be a spot where they could get some reps under their belt, in which case they could come in a little bit more potentially prepared for next week in the firm and difficult test that is going to be on display at the PGA Championship. So those are my three bets this week. It's DJ, it's Uline, it's Thomas Peters. That's who I got for LIV Golf out here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The event starts Friday. It goes through Sunday. You can catch the majority of the coverage, as always, on the app. You can catch me in the Tour Junkies Discord with my own sort of channel in there, as well as DB and Pat Perry have their channels. We will all be posting our picks throughout the week. I will make sure to include these this week. Find me on Twitter at Tour Picks. Subscribe to the at Tour Junkies channel. Hope to see you guys in a few weeks for the next event on the LIV Golf Tour. Best of luck this week. Good luck at the PGA Championship. Stay tuned. I'll talk to you all later. I'm out of here.